Chosen one, breathe for a second. Because I need you to understand something before we go any further. This message is not random. This is not just content. This is not something you clicked on by accident. This is a spiritual notification. Heaven is pressing on your spirit right now because God has released something through you, not only to you, but through you, at the end of the cycle. And listen, you can feel it. You may not even have the words for it. But you've been sensing strange pressure behind the scenes. Spiritual resistance that makes no logical sense. A deep emotional purge you couldn't explain. People acting weird around you, for no reason. Your sleep changing. Your appetite changing. Your patience thinning. Your old self feeling like it's dying. And your future self feeling like it's breathing. Chosen one. You are not breaking down. You are breaking out. Because when cycles end, God doesn't just close doors. He releases power. And some of that power, He released through you. Not everyone will understand why your life looks the way it looks right now. Not everyone will understand why you had to lose what you lost. Why it took so long. Why you walked through so much. But what they don't understand is, you weren't just going through something. You were being positioned as a spiritual switch. A divine carrier. A vessel. A human being that heaven could trust. To release a power into the earth at the end of the cycle. So if you've felt the heaviness lately, if you've felt the loneliness, if you've felt like you're outgrowing everything, then stay with me. Because by the end of this message, you're going to understand why God waited, what He protected you from, what broke off of you, and what is being released through you now. Chosen one. Cycles don't just end in the calendar. Cycles end in the spirit. And when a cycle is ending, it feels like this. You feel like you're in between. Like you're not who you used to be. But you're not fully who you're becoming yet. You're not fully comfortable in the old season. But the new season hasn't fully opened yet. So it feels like confusion and clarity at the same time. Grief and excitement at the same time. Endings and beginnings at the same time. That's why it's uncomfortable. Because endings aren't gentle. They're holy. They're surgical. They feel like God is cutting things out of your life. Not because He's angry, but because what's next requires a version of you that isn't chained to what was. And hear this. The end of a cycle doesn't just bring closure. It brings transfer. The cycle that is ending carries a spiritual weight. A debt. A pattern. A generational loop. And when God ends it, the power that was trapped inside it gets released. But not everybody can hold that release. Not everybody is built to carry the ending of things. That's why some people collapse when you break free. Because your freedom exposes their bondage. Your healing reveals their sickness. Your growth shows them their stagnation. So when God ended a cycle in your life, it wasn't just for you. It was for everything your bloodline has been bleeding from. It was for the patterns that kept repeating. It was for the chains nobody could name. God didn't just end the cycle. He broke the covenant with it. And the moment it broke, a power came out. A power you didn't even know you were carrying. Chosen one. Have you noticed something? The darkest part of the journey often happens right before the breakthrough. Right before the cycle ends, the warfare intensifies. Right before God frees you, the pressure increases. Right before God elevates you, the attacks multiply. And you were wondering, God, why now? Why does it feel like I'm being hit from every direction? Why am I crying more now than I cried when I started? Because endings shake the unseen world. Demons don't panic when you start. They panic when you're about to finish. Because the enemy doesn't fear your potential. He fears your completion. He fears the moment you stop going in circles. He fears the moment you stop entertaining what God already ended. He fears the moment you stop begging for what heaven already removed. The enemy was trying to wear you out, so you would quit at the finish line. But chosen one, you didn't quit. Even when you were tired, you still got up. Even when your heart was heavy, you still walked forward. Even when nobody clapped, you still kept going. That's why you were trusted with the ending. That's why God released power through you. Because you didn't just survive. You became a spiritual finisher. You became someone heaven could trust to close cycles that others kept repeating. Chosen one, listen carefully. Because some of you are still thinking the power is coming. You're still waiting for a big moment. A loud breakthrough. A dramatic change. A public announcement. A sudden miracle that everyone can see. But heaven is whispering right now. It already happened. The power was already released. It just didn't look like what you imagined. Because when God releases power through a chosen one, it often comes quietly. It doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with silence. Sometimes it comes with separation. Sometimes it comes with clarity you didn't ask for. And the reason you didn't notice at first is because you were looking for something external, while God was doing something internal. Chosen one. The power didn't only show up around you. It showed up inside you. You became the sign. You became the evidence. You became the release point. So let me show you the signs, clearly, deeply, prophetically, so you can finally understand. God released the power through you at the end of the cycle, and you didn't even realize it. Chosen one. There was a time when you wanted them to feel it. You wanted them to understand. You wanted them to regret it. And don't lie, some of you used to rehearse arguments in your mind. You used to think, if I could just say it right, they would finally realize what they did. Or you would imagine, one day they'll come back and I'll be the one who says no. But then something shifted. And it shocked you. Because one day, you woke up and realized, I don't even want the fight anymore. I don't even want to win the argument. I don't even want to prove myself. You just wanted to breathe again. You just wanted to sleep in peace. You just wanted your spirit clean. Chosen one, listen. That is not weakness. That is power. That's the kind of power that only comes when God removes poison from your heart. Because revenge is a chain. It keeps you connected to the person who hurt you. It keeps your energy tied to the past. But when God released power through you, He released the ability to let go without needing closure from people. And that is a rare level of healing. That is maturity. That is spiritual authority. That is the moment you become dangerous to the enemy. Because Satan can't manipulate a heart that is no longer triggered by pain. So if you suddenly stopped wanting revenge and started wanting peace, chosen one, that was the power. Chosen one. This is one of the biggest signs. Because before this cycle ended, there were things you couldn't stop entertaining. Not because you were weak, but because it was familiar. You were addicted to explaining yourself, trying again with the same type of person, returning to what drained you, staying too long, hoping people would change, waiting for someone to finally choose you. But suddenly, you started losing the taste. Something that once felt normal started feeling heavy. Something you once tolerated started feeling unacceptable. And it wasn't rebellion. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't you acting brand new. It was your spirit rejecting what your old self would have settled for. Chosen one. When God releases power through you, He releases a new appetite. And when your appetite changes, your life changes. Because you no longer hunger for crumbs. You no longer hunger for attention. You no longer hunger for toxic love. You no longer hunger for being needed. You start craving peace, truth, alignment, purpose, holiness, destiny. So if you've been feeling like, why don't I want the same things anymore? It's because God didn't just change your season. He changed your desires. That's power. Now listen. This one is going to expose something. Chosen one. Have you noticed people acting strange around you? People who used to laugh with you suddenly feel distant. People who used to call you suddenly disappear. People who used to support you suddenly act cold. And you're sitting there like, what did I do? Let me answer you. Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes you just became too clear, too awake, too aware, too anointed. Because when God releases power through you, your presence becomes a mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable. Because your energy exposes what they hide. Your healing exposes their wounds. Your discipline exposes their laziness. Your elevation exposes their jealousy. Your boundaries expose their manipulation. So they get uneasy. Not because you're arrogant, but because the light is increasing. And the truth is, some people liked you better when you were broken. Because broken people are easier to control. But now, you're not begging anymore. You're not chasing anymore. You're not explaining anymore. You're not shrinking anymore. Chosen one. They feel that. And that discomfort is proof. You have shifted. Let's talk real. Some of you used to tolerate anything just to feel loved. You stayed too long in connections that were draining you. You accepted mixed signals. You made excuses for people who kept hurting you. You kept giving chances. You kept forgiving without change. Because deep down, you were afraid of being alone. You were afraid of starting over. But then the cycle ended. And something in you rose. And it sounded like this. I'd rather be alone than disrespected. I'd rather heal than chase. I'd rather wait than settle. Chosen one. That is not pride. That is deliverance. That is the power of self-worth returning. That's God restoring your crown. Because when you respect yourself, you stop negotiating your value. And when you stop negotiating, you stop attracting low-level situations. So if you've been noticing, I'm not accepting what I used to accept. Chosen one. That is power. This is deep. Because some of you are still waiting for God to shout. But God doesn't always shout. Sometimes God speaks through clarity. Chosen one. One of the signs God released power through you is confusion left. Even if you didn't have answers, you had direction. You might not know the full plan, but you knew what you couldn't do anymore. You knew what you couldn't return to. You knew the door was closed. You knew the chapter was done. And that kind of knowing is God's voice. Sometimes God's voice isn't a sentence. Sometimes it's a spiritual certainty. A deep inner, no. A calm inner, walk away. A quiet inner, wait. A peaceful inner, that's not it. Chosen one. That's the power of discernment. That's God upgrading your spiritual senses. Because your destiny requires clarity. Let me explain this carefully. When cycles end, there is grief. Even if the cycle was painful. Even if the cycle was toxic. Even if the cycle was heavy. Because your soul still has memories. Your heart still has attachments. Your mind still has patterns. So you can be free. And still feel emotional. You can be delivered. And still cry. You can be moving forward. And still feel the weight of what was lost. That grief doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It means you're human. It means you're healing properly. Chosen one. The power God released through you was not just strength. It was the ability to feel deeply without returning. That's rare. That's maturity. That's emotional authority. This is big. Because the old you would explode. The old you would defend yourself. The old you would prove your point. The old you would react quickly. But now, you pause. You breathe. You walk away. You pray first. You let silence answer. And let me tell you why this is spiritual. When God releases power through you, He gives you control over your emotional gates. Because the enemy used to enter through your triggers. He used to provoke you. He used to bait you. He used to drag you into chaos. But now, you don't get pulled as easily. And listen, this is the part some people won't like. They'll accuse you of being cold. They'll accuse you of changing. They'll accuse you of not caring. But the truth is, you're no longer controllable. And that's power. Chosen one. This is the most confusing part for many of you. Because you're thinking, how can I feel powerful and still feel broken sometimes? Let me answer. Because power is not the absence of emotion. Power is the ability to keep moving through the emotion. You're not healed because you never cry. You're healed because you cry and still obey God. You still show up. You still believe. You still pray. You still fight for your future. That is power. Because the enemy expected you to collapse. But you didn't. You bent, but you didn't break. You hurt, but you didn't quit. So if you've been crying, but still moving forward, chosen one, heaven is proud of you. That's the power. You didn't change to be special. You didn't change to be seen. You didn't change for attention. You changed because God pulled you out of the crowd. And now, you can't blend in anymore. Your spirit won't let you. Your soul won't tolerate fake. Your energy won't survive shallow. You crave depth now. You crave purpose now. You crave truth now. And that's why some rooms feel small. That's why some people feel boring. That's why you can't laugh at what you used to laugh at. Because the cycle ended. And you can't be the old version again. Chosen one. That's not you losing yourself. That's you finding yourself. This is prophetic. Some of you noticed. People watch you more now. They don't talk to you the same. They study you. They copy you. They compete with you quietly. They act supportive but feel strange. Chosen one. That is spiritual. Because when God releases power through you, your aura becomes loud in the spirit. Even if your mouth is quiet. And people who are sensitive, whether they're healed or wounded, will feel it. So don't be surprised when old people resurface. Fake smiles increase. Hidden jealousy reveals itself. Silent competition shows up. It's not random. It's confirmation. Because your rising exposes who was only comfortable when you were down. This one is deep. Because early on, you needed constant confirmation. You needed people to reassure you. You needed things to go right to believe. But now, even when things look quiet, you still trust God. Even when the road is unclear, you still obey. Even when it takes time, you still stay faithful. Chosen one. That is elite faith. That's the kind of faith God can build legacy on. Because faith that only works when it's easy is not faith. But your faith survived the storm. Your faith survived betrayal. Your faith survived delay. So now, your faith carries weight. And that weight is power. Yes. Some of you used to feel guilty for changing. You used to feel guilty for saying no. You used to feel guilty for leaving. You used to feel guilty for leveling up. But now, you don't feel guilty anymore. You feel responsible. Responsible for your destiny. Responsible for your peace. Responsible for your calling. Chosen one. The guilt leaving is not selfishness. It's growth. It's God removing the emotional chains that made you stay bound to people who weren't assigned to your future. Now let me give you the biggest sign. The biggest sign God released power through you is this. You didn't go back. You were tempted. You were tested. You were pulled. You were lonely. You were emotional. You were tired. But you didn't go back. You didn't return to the same cycles. You didn't settle again. You didn't compromise again. You didn't shrink again. Chosen one. That right there is the evidence of power. Because going back would have been easy. But staying aligned? That takes heaven's strength. And you have it now. Chosen one, I want you to speak this right now, slowly, deeply, like you mean it. God, I recognize the power you released through me. I honor the ending you gave me. I will not return to the cycle you broke. I receive my upgrade. I walk forward in peace, not pressure. I am a cycle breaker. I am chosen. And I will finish what heaven started in me. Amen. Yes, I'm naming it. This is cycle breaker power. This is the power to end what keeps repeating. The power to stop what has been chasing your family. The power to heal what everybody avoided. The power to break spiritual contracts with trauma. The power to walk away without looking back. Chosen one. You are becoming the person who doesn't repeat patterns. You are becoming the person who ends curses. You are becoming the person who closes doors that were open for generations. That's why your deliverance feels intense. That's why your growth feels extreme. That's why your calling feels heavy. Because your life is not just about you. Your life is a spiritual announcement. Now let me prophesy to you clearly. Some of you have been under attack because you were one step from the exit. The enemy tried to trap you in your mind, tried to pull you back into anxiety, tried to stir emotional chaos, tried to make you doubt God, tried to make you feel like you were behind, tried to shame you, tried to convince you missed your moment. But listen, you didn't miss it. You reached it. That's why the warfare spiked. Because the enemy felt the cycle ending. That's why people started acting out. That's why your name started getting brought up in rooms you weren't in. That's why your sleep got disturbed. That's why your peace got tested. Because the enemy doesn't just attack you. He attacks what you carry. And what you carry is the ending of loops. Let me make this human. This power doesn't always look like lightning. Sometimes it looks like you finally blocking them. You finally saying no. You finally leaving quietly. You finally choosing yourself. You finally getting disciplined. You finally taking your gift seriously. You finally not reacting. You finally healing your inner child. You finally forgiving without returning. You finally believing God is still good. Chosen one. The power God released through you is not always loud. It's often silent. It's often private. It's often misunderstood. But it's holy. And it changes everything. Because heaven respects decisions. God releases power through obedience. Not through noise. Not through debate. Not through emotion. Through obedience. Even when your hands were shaking, you obeyed. Even when you didn't feel ready, you obeyed. Even when nobody understood, you obeyed. And power came through you. There is a part of your life that is called after. After the betrayal. After the delay. After the confusion. After the breakdown. After the season where you felt like God was silent. Chosen one. You are entering the after. This is the part where you start breathing again. This is the part where doors open without you begging. This is the part where peace becomes normal. This is the part where your gift starts making room for you. This is the part where you stop explaining yourself. This is the part where your life becomes evidence. And here's the wild part. Some people are going to come back around once they feel that shift. But you're not the same. You're not desperate anymore. You're not hungry for validation anymore. You're not willing to shrink anymore. Because the end of the cycle did something to you. It broke the last chain. It killed the last addiction to approval. It healed the last wound that made you chase what was never meant for you. So now, you're entering the season of alignment. Chosen one, listen carefully. This is what you do right now. Some of you are tempted to revisit, tempted to message them, tempted to go back, tempted to reopen old doors. But hear me. If God ended it, let it die. Because resurrection power is for your future, not your trauma. You are not acting different. You are becoming different. You are not too quiet. You are protecting your spirit. You are not too intense. You are finally honest. You are not too much. You are finally yourself. Your anointing is increasing. Your gift is growing. Your sensitivity is sharpening. So you can't entertain everything anymore. Some music has to go. Some conversations have to go. Some environments have to go. Because you're not just healing. You're being entrusted. God is about to give you access to rooms that used to intimidate you, connections that used to feel impossible, opportunities that come without chasing. And when it happens, don't panic. Don't self-sabotage. Don't shrink. Stand in it. God is the one opening it. This is important. Don't let the pain harden you. Don't become cold. Don't become cruel. Chosen ones don't win by becoming evil. They win by staying pure, by staying led, by staying humble. Your heart is your crown. Now I'm going to speak this directly. Chosen one. God is using you as a release point, a spiritual gate, a prophetic sign. Your life is becoming a message. Some people will watch you and feel convicted. Some people will watch you and feel inspired. Some people will watch you and secretly change. Because your obedience will preach without a microphone. Your discipline will preach without a sermon. Your glow will preach without explanation. Chosen one. God released power through you at the end of the cycle. Because you were the one strong enough to carry it. And now heaven is saying, now let me reward you. Chosen one. I know it was painful. I know you lost things you didn't deserve to lose. I know you prayed prayers that felt unanswered. I know you fought battles nobody saw. I know you smiled while bleeding. I know you kept going while breaking. But listen, that season was not punishment. It was preparation. And now, the cycle is ending. The door is closing. The chapter is finishing. The weight is lifting. The power is releasing. And the version of you that is rising now is the version heaven has been waiting for. So take a deep breath and say this out loud. I will not return to what God delivered me from. I honor the ending because it leads to my beginning. I receive the power God released through me. I am walking into the next season with peace. I am a cycle breaker. I am chosen. And I will finish what God started. Chosen one. If this message touched your spirit, type in the comments, "The cycle is over." And as you type it, don't just type it like words. Type it like a spiritual contract. Because when you declare it, heaven responds. I love you, chosen one. Stay covered. Stay focused. Stay ready. Because what God is about to do next will make the entire past make sense. Amen. Chosen one, before you go, I want to speak to the givers, the ones whose hearts feel called to pour back into the vessel that pours into them. If this message awakened you, if it strengthened you, if it spoke to your spirit in a way only heaven could orchestrate, then I invite you, only if your heart feels led, to sow a $1 seed into this channel. Not because God needs it, but because giving is a spiritual law. A small seed carries big obedience. And God multiplies what is given with pure intention. Your $1 keeps this ministry alive, keeps the messages flowing, and helps this word reach the next chosen one who needs it. If you feel that nudge in your spirit, if you feel that gentle pull, you can plant your $1 seed using the link in the description. And if you can't or don't feel led, you are still loved, still seen, and still covered. Blessings to every giver, and blessings to every listener. Your seed moves heaven in ways you may never see. But God sees it all.